Welcome to the Facilitators Deep Dive Podcast, your podcast on your way to facilitation mastery.
Ready to unlock your boldest self. We're going deep on presence today, using Amy Cuddy's book, Presence, bringing your boldest self to your biggest challenges.
It's really about accessing that inner strength and then kind of projecting it outward.
I love that.
Yeah.
So before we get into the specifics, what exactly is presence? Is it just like confidence?
It's more than just confidence, yeah. Cuddy, she describes presence as being, attuned to your true thoughts and feelings and values.
Oh.
But then here's the key, being able to express them comfortably,
Yeah.
without feeling self-conscious or insecure.
So not about like fitting into some mold, but really?
Yeah, it's about being your authentic self,
Yeah.
even when things get, tough.
In those like challenging situations.
Exactly. And it's not like a constant state, right?
Right.
It's something we experience in moments. We all have times where we feel more present and others where we feel less so.
I think we've all had those moments where we're just like in the zone. You're engaged, you're confident, you're authentic. How do we get there more consistently?
Yeah, that's the question, right? And Cuddy offers some interesting insights, particularly when it comes to body language.
Yes, the power posing. Does standing like Wonder Woman really work?
I know, it sounds a little out there,
Yeah.
but the research is pretty cool. Cuddy's experiments showed that those kinds of expansive postures lead to actual physical changes.
Wow, so it's not just a mental thing.
No, like your testosterone goes up, that's the confidence hormone, right? And then your cortisol, the stress hormone, goes down.
So it's really like a biological shift.
Totally. And
Yeah.
that can help you feel more confident and less stressed, which, can be huge in a high-pressure situation.
Like a job interview.
Absolutely. There's even a study that found people who power posed before a job interview were more likely to get hired.
No way. So posture is like the secret weapon.
Kinda.
So if that works, what are some other like tiny tweaks we can make? Cuddy talks about this idea of self-nudging.
Right. So self-nudging is all about making these small, incremental changes to your mindset and your behavior, and they sort of build on each other over time.
Okay.
So imagine you start each morning by, adjusting your posture, sitting up straight, taking up space.
So it's like sending a message to your brain, hey, we're feeling good.
Exactly. But it could be other things too, like, reframing your to-do list as exciting opportunities, or even just wearing clothes that make you feel more confident.
I love that. It's all about shifting your perspective.
Yeah. And those little changes, they can have a ripple effect.
Wow. Okay, but what about when those negative thoughts creep in, that imposter syndrome,
Yeah.
feeling like a fraud?
Oh, absolutely. And, Cuddy, she dedicates a whole section of the book to imposter syndrome. And she really emphasizes, that it's way more common than we think.
I feel like everyone struggles with that at some point.
Right. Even highly accomplished people. Cuddy even talks about her own experience with imposter syndrome after a brain injury, which impacted her, cognitive abilities.
Wow. If Amy Cuddy, a Harvard professor, can feel like an imposter, then yeah, I think we can all cut ourselves some slack.
Exactly. And so, what she encourages us to do is to become more aware of those thoughts, to actually challenge them.
So like recognizing them.
Yeah. And remember, just because you feel like an imposter doesn't mean you are one.
That's so important. But how do we move beyond just acknowledging it? Like, how do we really shift our mindset?
Well, Cuddy, she suggests some interesting questions to ask ourselves to help define our best selves.
Well, I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What 3 words best describe you? Or when did you feel most in the zone?
Ooh, those are good ones. I'm gonna have to think about that.
Yeah, it can be really revealing. And then once you've got those strengths and values, it's about owning them and expressing them.
So it's not just internal, it's about showing it to the world.
Totally. And that's where listening comes in, which might sound counterintuitive.
Wait, listening?
Yeah. Cuddy makes the argument that listening can actually be a powerful tool for cultivating presence.
I'm intrigued. How does that work?
So by truly listening to others, you're showing respect, you're building trust, and you're gathering information.
It makes sense, but it seems like the opposite of presence, Like, shouldn't you be the one doing the talking?
I know it seems counterintuitive, but sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is just step back and let others speak.
Okay. So it's about creating space for others.
Yeah, and that act of listening, it fosters connection and creates a more harmonious environment.
So it's not just about you, it's about everyone.
Exactly. And that's just the beginning of what presence can do. There's so much more to explore in Cuddy's work.
Okay, I'm hooked. I can't wait to hear more. Welcome back. So we're continuing our deep dive into presence, and I'm really interested in this idea of, believing and owning your story.
Yeah, that's a big one for Cuddy.
It feels really powerful, but I'd love to unpack it a bit more.
Sure. It's about, understanding and accepting all parts of yourself,
Okay.
your strengths, weaknesses, experiences, and then kind of weaving them into a narrative that feels, true to you.
So it's not about creating this perfect image,
No, no, not at all. It's more about embracing who you really are.
warts and all.
Exactly. Cuddy emphasizes that the self is uh, multifaceted and dynamic. It's not fixed.
Right.
We evolve, and our story evolves with us.
I like that. It takes the pressure off.
Right. And when we accept ourselves, fully, we're less afraid to be authentic.
To just show up as we are.
Yeah. And that authenticity is what lets our true presence come through.
Now, Cuddy talks about believing in your story, even if others don't. Why is that so important?
Because if you don't believe it,
Yeah.
it's hard to project that confidence and authenticity. It's like it all comes back to that inner strength.
It's like this message to yourself and to the world. I'm worthy. I'm capable.
Exactly. And to help with that, Cuddy suggests some really good questions.
Okay.
Like, what 3 words describe you best? Or when did you feel most in the zone? Have you ever tried those?
Oh, I love those questions. I haven't really sat down and thought about it, but
Yeah, it's really revealing. And then once you have a better grasp of your own story, it's about communicating it.
bringing that authentic self out into the world.
Exactly. That's where action comes in. It's not enough to just think about it.
You got to walk the walk, not just talk the talk.
Right. And so much of communication is, nonverbal.
Yeah, body language, tone of voice, the energy you're putting out.
It all contributes to how people perceive you.
It's like when you meet someone and they're just radiating authenticity. You can just tell.
Absolutely. That's presence in action. And this is where it gets interesting. Let's talk about power.
Tower.
Yeah. Cuddy ties presence to this concept of power, and she makes a distinction between 2 types.
Okay, I'm listening.
So you have social power, which is about, influence over others. The kind of power that comes with positions or titles or status.
So it's external, coming from outside.
Exactly. But then there's personal power.
Okay.
And that's about feeling in control of your own thoughts, feelings, actions. It's that inner strength.
So that one comes from within.
Exactly. And while both types of power can be useful, Cuddy argues that personal power is essential for presence.
Why is that?
Because when we feel powerless, we tend to get, anxious, self-absorbed, inhibited.
We hold back.
We do. We're less likely to take risks or speak up. It's hard to access that state of authentic presence when you're feeling insecure.
Yeah, presence requires confidence.
It does. And here's the fascinating part. Cuddy's research shows that body language can actually influence our feelings of power.
So how we hold ourselves physically can affect how powerful we feel. I've always been kind of skeptical about that.
I know it sounds weird, but the research is there. Remember the power poses. Well, studies have shown that adopting those expansive postures, standing tall, arms outstretched, it can actually increase feelings of power.
Whoa, it's like our body is sending signals to our brain.
Exactly. It's about aligning our physical and mental states.
That's so cool.
When we feel powerful, we naturally adopt those postures. But when we consciously adopt the postures, it can trigger the feeling.
It's like a feedback loop.
It is. And that's why paying attention to body language is so crucial.
Not just for how we appear to others, but for how we feel about ourselves.
Exactly. And Cuddy even suggests, incorporating power poses into your routine.
Like before a big meeting or a presentation.
Exactly. Just to kind of prime yourself.
I love that. Okay, so body language is important, but what about our minds? How do we shift our mindset for more presence?
Well, a big part of it is self-nudging, which we touched on before. It's about those small changes that lead to bigger shifts.
Can you give some examples of that? How do we self-nudge in practice?
Sure. One technique is reframing anxiety as excitement.
Oh.
So, when you're anxious, your body goes into fight or flight mode. Your heart races. You might get tense.
Oh, yeah, I know that feeling all too well.
We've all been there. But the thing is, the physical response to excitement is actually very similar.
So it's about how we interpret those feelings.
Exactly. Instead of, I'm so nervous, try, I'm so excited.
Wow, that's a really interesting shift.
It can really change your perspective. Another powerful technique is visualization.
Okay.
So picture yourself succeeding in those challenging situations.
Like mental rehearsal.
Exactly. It's like creating a mental blueprint for success.
So when you're in that situation, you've already kind of lived it in your mind.
Exactly. It helps reduce anxiety and boost confidence.
I love that. Any other self-nudges?
Cuddy also talks about dressing for presence. It's not about conforming to some style, but choosing clothes that make you feel good.
So if I want to feel confident, I should dress in a way that makes me feel confident.
Exactly. It's about aligning your external presentation with your internal state.
Like, dress for the job you want.
Right. And speaking of how we present ourselves, Cuddy talks about this fascinating thing called the body transfer illusion.
Okay, what's that?
So it's this idea that our perception of our physical selves can be influenced by external factors.
Okay.
Like studies have shown that when people use avatars in virtual reality, they start to adopt characteristics of those avatars in real life.
Whoa, wait, really? So if I have a tall, confident avatar, I might start feeling taller and more confident myself.
Yeah, it's like our brains blur the lines between virtual and real.
That is so wild. So our virtual experiences can actually shape our sense of self.
It's crazy, right? It just highlights the importance of being mindful of the images and messages we consume, both online and offline.
That's so true. Okay, so we've talked about body language and mindset, but what about the people around us? Can their presence impact us?
Oh, absolutely. Cuddy talks about presence being like contagious. When we're around people who are confident and authentic,
Yeah.
it can rub off on us.
Like we're absorbing their energy.
Yeah, it's like a positive feedback loop. We see them being authentic, and it inspires us to do the same.
I love that. So surrounding ourselves with positive, present people can actually help us become more present ourselves.
Exactly. And it works both ways. Our presence can also inspire others. It's a beautiful cycle.
So it's not just personal growth, it's about making the world a more positive place.
Yes. And ultimately, Cuddy reminds us that presence isn't about being perfect. It's about being you.
I think that's the best takeaway.
It is. It's about embracing who you are and showing up in the world with confidence and authenticity.
It's about letting your true self shine.
Exactly. And when we do that, we create space for others to do the same.
This is amazing. We'll continue this exploration in part 3, but I want to leave you with this thought. How has someone's presence positively impacted you?
Welcome back. Before the break, we were talking about how someone else's presence can really impact us. Do you think of any examples?
Oh yeah, tons. I mean, Cuddy has this one story about a minister in Boston.
He was, like, really trying to tackle gang violence in his community.
Wow.
And he realized that, the traditional ways of approaching it just weren't working. He had to connect with these kids on a different level.
More like human to human.
Exactly. And Cuddy, she explains that when we need someone new, we're kind of instinctively trying to assess two things:
Okay.
warmth and competence.
Right.
Like, can I trust this person and can I respect them?
That makes sense. We're always trying to figure people out.
We are. And the interesting thing is, research shows that we actually prioritize warmth over competence.
Really? So we care more about whether someone's trustworthy, even if they're not the most, skilled or whatever.
Yeah, it's like if we don't feel safe with someone, it doesn't matter how competent they are.
Yeah, we're not going to listen to them.
Exactly. So this minister in Boston, he realized he needed to show those kids that he was trustworthy.
Before he could even try to, address the gang violence.
Exactly. He had to show up authentically, without judgment, and make them feel heard.
So he had to embody presence.
He did. And a big part of that was listening. Cuddy talks a lot about the importance of listening.
Yeah, it's so easy to just, want to jump in with your own thoughts.
It is. But we got to, quiet that inner chatter and really hear what the other person is saying.
Not just the words, but the whole message.
Exactly. Being present in that moment.
Okay, so listening is important, but Cuddy also talks about this paradox of listening.
Oh, yeah. The idea that by, letting go of control, by really listening, we actually gain more influence.
How does that work?
It's like people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
Right.
When we listen, we're showing respect, building trust, and that's the foundation for connection.
And then from that connection, you can actually start to make change.
Exactly. We gain information, we gain new perspectives, and we can come up with solutions that work for everyone.
It's like listening is a superpower.
It is. And it all comes back to presence. When we're truly present, we can listen deeply, connect authentically, and create, a ripple effect.
Wow. This has been such a great deep dive. We've talked about body language, listening, self-nudging, the whole 9 yards. Presence is clearly more than just a feeling. It's the skill we can develop.
It's about, showing up as our best selves, embracing our stories, and connecting with others in a real way.
And like you said before, it's not about being perfect. It's about being you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And when we do that, we make it possible for others to do the same.
Mm.
It creates a more authentic world.
Absolutely. So if you had to pick just one key takeaway from all of this, what would it be?
I'd say, remember that presence is a practice. It's not something you achieve overnight.
Yeah.
It's about those small conscious choices we make every day.
To be more self-aware, confident, authentic.
Yes, it's about showing up for ourselves and for others.
I love that. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into presence. We hope you've learned some valuable tools for bringing your boldest self to your biggest challenges.
See you next time on the Facilitators Deep Dive Podcast, your podcast on your way to facilitation mastery. Until next time.
See you then.